there's a like the minimum prevention right now what is that is going to like the right now the rate is doesn't correlate with I'm considering that me right now that not being able to like find it as been scenario that I'm doing. Which is like to like have like the power to that basically remotely sense like presence of that their own people and their people like it would be like the case of like hope and ban like that rainbow powered like bounce like and like with them that they're disappear like the fact that like just now that or also able to like sense their disappear of like their process like during like in the very similar manner like or would be also able to like sense like the presence of like Ishida coming closer and closer to like their face to the base of like the bounces definitely like the Indian scenario where I'm looking for like that like I'm looking like Uragawa I'm looking like by the time like going through the frantically searching like it's going through right now frantically searching for like example like that would be right now trying to definitely I'm still in the memory like it will be right now going towards like trying to find like base the home of like the bounce and to that sacrifice himself so that like in hopes that that might cause like the bounce to like lead which again go ahead of the flame of finish so like I'm definitely like the narratively like as people I will be getting closer to like the days of like the uh days of like the bounce like I'm bringing that definitely since like Shida as well has already been revealed to have like the power to like send like persons and everything like I'm doing like okay, came from like the very beginning like and all that like it was super and all that so like I was like Shida as well would be able to like maybe having the power to like remotely send like the presence of like the bounce and like so like the location of the career person bounce. So like I'm putting like as like now we getting closer to like the way in which the bounce under the different scenario to be like whatever showing up and abducting Ishida and taking Ishida to like the base that the bounce is like the scenario that I'm so at that point I'm looking like as like if you went through with the like finally certain bomb for the initially them so they find it I know lying on top lying on the floor, like the scenario, lying on the floor, that speak like the scenario that I'm doing. And because of like that knows to be left by Furagawa. And I'm returning to according to like Jin plan that like Furagawa would have left that note, and that note would be Buzupring would be totally what is the on that note, and Buzupring would be that like if they want to say if like they want Ishida back, then like basically show to this like specific certain location by this time during like on this date will be along the number seven was the note with what it will be that written on that note. It's like the scenario that it's like but it's like easy when for you find it like the scenario that I'm doing and that note like it will be like totally fragile to like basically feed Ishida alive so that for like Jin and for the remaining bound to like just only keep Ishida alive until so that like they will be planning on like realistically like using we should actually that basically lure out it's going through that precise exact spot like an alleyway like the patients were referring like the whole song group versus an axis versus group like ultimate final that we also taking basis of so like it would be like a setting that would be like extremely advantage in that campus like the note would be like what would be running like a note in like that note and the would be like so that basically the location and like the sign and everything is like extremely advantageous to the group of bouncing region to be able to it's definitely manipulated. So like in such an advantages, unfair advantages, lack location or to like the bounce would be that like I'm putting like the net advantage of setting like if you fight in operating like the bounce and that kind of so on that is definitely the brain support that definitely I'm also putting that if that would be totally after getting up that instead I would be totally sleeping at instead after getting up better I'm definitely instead like totally pleading to like the to Jin to like basically to and all of the other songs to like leak which you can provide on but like I'm doing them only realistically like it's rather like it's going to like eliminate all of like the friends and all that like the scenario that I'm looking because like I'm looking from Jin's point of view Jin will be make it all living and all the letters like from what like what Kudagawa might have told Jin from what like Kodagawa might have assumed or understood like after the maybe like Kodagawa the thing that it might have been like is when close like persons that might have resulted in Yoshino like basically always wanting to like leave like the base and all that but meaning with so like and like the reason like the bounce would be like the strong when they are together like and so definitely exactly like so definitely I'm remembering that exactly like how like the water tower power processing powers like Po and Ban had like I think like has the power to like combine the strength like different like it would be the same case with like other remaining powers as well. So like Jin would be in terms of power like Jin power would be at this like maximum. And in order for like Jin to have that maximum power, like Jin would have might need all of his like remember powers that showering their powers onto like Jin so that like Jin to like collectively have that like ultimate power. Settling on the train. So like I'm since like I'm cutting like Jin is like basically that basically stealing like the source of that human while the and I like I'm like definitely and that way to like and that resulting in this black hole like pathway tunnels like pathway to like the world of horror like opening up to like the human world. So in such situations if like happening like I'm definitely Jin's like with like Jin's like extreme obsession to like darkness number like Jin's ultimate goal would be to like basically go up to like the world of horrors and like live with that absolute world where like there will be like it will be like darkness at the end up and like there like the world or like the dimension of like the world of horror kind of would use to be always darkness and there will be absolutely no light at all. So like I'm looking like as for like Jin who would be like only obsessed with darkness and want to like stay away from light like for feel like the world of positivity that actually paradise for like Jin to live in and that may be and not only live in but to like roll all of the entirety of like follows and entirety of the role and the role it just might be less things like ultimate goal. So like to achieve that goal like Jin would be like only definitely doing that like we would need that ultimate he should be at this like strong not for him to be like achieve that goal. So like my zero soul reason for like him, like basically not wanting Yoshino to like basically leave and all that. Definitely not the same person. So definitely my preference and so like I'm thing will be totally right now seeing that it's going through as with like obstacle that might cross like Yoshino to like permanently leave it's like boundaries and it's like bound groups so actually exactly because of this reason, looking like Jin, we be like totally determined to like wipe out like the entirety of like Ichigo and just that one. So you by using and luring, using Ishida to like lure them out into like and also the disadvantages like locations like the scenario that everything. So like that way eventually I'm looking like that ultimate fight between that Ichigo and Ko versus that Jin crew of that town, which like the scenario that I'm looking for. And my preference. And in that battle, I'm looking like Yoshino definitely. I'm looking even before that point battle, I'm looking like Yoshino would be like showing up to like Ichigo to and I'm looking like Yoshino would be like only deciding to like help Ichigo and go out. Definitely, I'm looking like because that there definitely would be that guilt deep down within like Yoshino connecting to like the 20s, the human references, especially because of like Yoshino, especially because of like Yoshino being so fond of this like guitar in this like shop like recently that I'm think that might tell the reason for that might be that maybe that John might have reminded Yoshino of her daughter and I'm like definitely what might have happened in the person sitting in the member television that like due to that due to like Jin's like extreme ambitions like that of like basically maybe like Jin might have only Zip and his like bound pro might have that had like ambition to like wipe out like the Quincy. So like I'm also from that like the Western Buffalo like maybe it might have been during that whole fight against like the Quincy army that like I'm looking that maybe it would be during then that like I'm looking like Yoshino might have lost her love and stuff about might have died with the new member for him. So like Yoshino still to that person would be and upper like so that of like Yoshino's daughter like Yoshino's daughter might have been that something that like might have been that what like you might have been seeing that as like that absolute hope and joy in her life. So like I'm talking about like the sudden loss of her daughter, like you might have always felt empty. It's definitely not the same. So like I'm talking like definitely I'm talking like you know be having that guilt deep within her since then. Because like I'm talking Yoshino might have blamed herself because of like basically in an unprovoked manner, like I'm looking like someone might have elected about might have targeted like the Quincy's and might have like try to like wipe out like the things like also like that and so like it might have been during that war like I'm just thought might have got into like the middle of and might have that might have been how that news not know might have tired of the moving of famous so and definitely those innocent friends might have like totally resented and I mean like regretted and that like that taking part in that war and like targeting like citizens and all that. So like there will be like that guilt, there might have been that guilt sense that within like you know connecting to the Quincy. So like I'm looking like things like the fundamental operation, but something like right now war like if it actually get affected by like the remaining bounds and like if they are getting into trouble and like it's going through getting that like no. It should be telling if you go to like they really they want you should have for them that work to like but like I'm looking like while you go and throw like brainstorming and try to like and would be training and trying to like they prepare themselves to stay Ishida on that very day to just show up that I think it would be during this time that I was like you know might show up to like the is when fully and like you know I'm talking like throw you know like I'm talking like if you can be like probably at that point would be like only at that point I'm looking like it would be like realizing that basically through your you know telling them that basically that Jin is definitely not going to lag and let them is not going to like give back to Shadad. Like definitely Jin is like probably using to Shadad to like Leo put it through into this trap to like wipe out this going through as well. It would be along the lines of the definitely would be the thing that would be far too obvious for like Yoshino because like Yoshino knows will be knowing that Jin far too well and the type of person Jin is definitely not friend so definitely that way I'm looking for like Yoshino only that way helping Ichigo and Pro not only through like bring that awareness to like Ichigo and Pro but like also onto the like Yoshino due to that guilt and regret that definitely would be present even to like the substance within that Yoshino connecting to like the Ichigo and like Yoshino deciding to like help Ichigo and Pro out to like save Ichigo solely due to like the fact that like it's like a danger it's like the scenario that I mean so like in that final swap between like the Jin and like the bound army were like Ichigo and Pro to like save Ishida like and during that war like and during Yoshino as well we were only fighting alongside like Ichigo in that army like in the scenario so I'm പറയാൻ definitely I'm looking it would be in that war that I'm looking like once like I'm looking like Jin would be as like that war would be happening and I'm looking at some point like I'm looking like the scenario and I'm thinking about the thing that like as for like Ichigo I'm looking like Ichigo would be most likely fighting off. Initially, I'm going to go would be fighting off against Jin in that war, and Jin would be probably off for Ichigo, and I'm looking for like then like as like Jin would be about to take Oshino's like in front for stuff like I would think like the remaining all of them would be like in like a sideline kind of like a situation, and Ishida as well would be in that. So like I'm just like Ishida would be in like an extreme situation where like Ishida would want still won't be having like if you know skin flip out and then like it would be like the situation where like they will be able to take for in his life that would be uh like that pressure would be like forcing Pixelar to be able to like access and react and be able to get back to like in this world and that way from that point on like Gambler would have to fight being between like and that way instead of saving for him and like then comes like the actual fight happening but like the actual main fight will be between like Ishida and Jin while Uchigo's fight and that local everything from that point on would be against that bound member who basically read till that who's able to like read in like the darkness, like read books in like the darkness and those like him as well behind that. And I'm remembering that bound member and those would be like the second strongest bound member after Jin in like Jin's like group is definitely bound group is like definitely not the brain. So like I'm like that only how like changes that you will like changes scenario like and also for thing maybe of like the possibility also that for like you know not surviving that like for wow between like to go and throw so it's like the army of like Jin and like the remaining bound it's like also like about that I'm going maybe I'm also like definitely like you're not trying to like make up for like that extreme guilt and regret like that you might have come to like the princess by maybe like I'm looking like as like the Ishida was like Jin fight on the even though I'm looking like Ishida would be like Charlie or orange Jin numbers like Jin like totally using some sort of like an unfair like cheat strategy using the which like I'm looking like Jin would be like about to take Ishida's life but like I'm looking at that point I'm looking maybe for like a serious possibility of like you know maybe sacrificing her life to like protect Ishida. Maybe that would be how that number you know might be ending up dying by the hands of sin at that point. With like and that way like you know basically protecting like Ishida while like getting affected by like the extremely powerful attack of like this was like and also like an only for the scenario that I was so like from that point on Amazon like Ishida would be like extremely enraged, especially since like Yoshino had like already reminded uh like Ishida of like Ishida's mother, like everything, like it's not that going will be extremely encouraged and at like Jin and everything like from that point on, I'm looking at video of like crushing and of body and defeating Jin is like the Indian scenario that I'm looking for. Yet like I'm going like Ishida still understanding that won't be that much like you're taking things life like the scenario that I'm doing. But like I'm like Ishida will get partly exactly like in my case, like I'm doing like a thing not scenario, but like Ishida would be like Starly or for defeating Jin and his like and Ishida's like and as well as like it's just so like it went up like in the Starly or for defeating Badly or for defeating that Jin that crew and I'm going to find like at that point like at the place there will be like sorely faced with the reality that like that have been thoroughly defeated and overpowered and so like I'm doing yet like I'm doing like Ishida giving them that chance to like basically telling them to like basically leave that city right then itself. Like Ishida, like Jin and all of them at that point being scared and like then Ishida giving that final warning and a threat to like Jin and his like crew members of like bounce that basically to never take the steal like the soul of like a human that's like alive. It's like the initial scenario that ever and then Ishida telling them to like escape and leave like the city at that point. So like that way like I'm doing that. That's like the initial scenario that I'm doing. So like I'm going to play Jin and like the remaining towns not ending up dying, but like I'm going to catch them being forced to like basically leave that city. It's like that means the scenario is like that way. Ishida and Ichigo pro driving that Jin and that the pounds of electricity is like giving the generic current shipping and everything. Well, definitely preemption right now is that basically Yoshino right now, definitely not about the since they ran into like it's that's definitely not prevention. Like because like Yoshino might have definitely if I like Kuragawa like Yoshino will definitely able to bring might be I will like the power to like sense like the presence of like other people whether it's like around bound members or like if it's like frequency that is allowed to definitely have prevention. So definitely Yoshino from like a distance itself like might have perfectly sense that the twin cities are like basically walking towards like the location of like the base of like the bound to the river of the road. So like everything like Yoshino might have been instantly able to like figure out what Ishida might be trying to do and everything like that like it's definitely my preference. So like I'm going definitely potentially because of the Swiss number like you're not definitely I'm going like still what the member I'm definitely bringing would be later on having that same kid running to like the quick scenes is definitely my preference. So definitely I'm like right now showing up in front of like the on be just like running into that is the job like what might the actuality might be like being a reflection what Ishida was like trying to do and so like to protect and save Ishida from the remaining bounds before like the remaining bounds friends of Ishida and like tries to like abduct Ishida before that for like to like save Ishida like I'm looking like might have right now consciously quickly might have rushed to like basically showing up and finding Ishida to save and protect Ishida might be what might have happened. But right now, with that Ishida, you know, right now showing up in front of Ishida, definitely memory. And definitely my transition right now is for like Yoshino right now taking Ishida to like a safe location, which like Yoshino would be feeling like it's like a safe location. So that way like I'm looking like Yoshino, definitely I'm looking right now, not bringing Ishida back to like it well shows like the scenario that I'm looking. Instead like Yoshino, I'm looking like be taking Ishida to like a location where like Yoshino will be feeling safe so that they are like when you once again creating like you should have like memes and everything. So like at that point, I'm even like would be when like if I would be like actually asking Yoshino about like the fruit about like why Yoshino is like while being like about like basically it's like so different from all the other bounds and like it's like concerned about like should I taking care of like should I asking Yoshino about it directly at that point is like the scenario that I'm doing. And at that point is when I'm like Yoshino might be actually revealing her finally deciding to like reveal her actual backstory coming into which will be most likely visible coming into like Yoshino's daughter, her death as well as like connecting to like the twenties and how Yoshino this like extreme regret might have been formed within like Yoshino towards like the twenties and all that. That's definitely my preference to like Yoshino revealing that backstory to Ishida. It's like the scenario at that point. It's like the scenario that happened. So like by the time Yoshino will be done finishing the backstory and telling Ishida, revealing all that truth uh, to like Ishida. I'm also trying like and I'm also trying through that backstory like I'm doing like Ishida also talking realizing how much powerful like frequency is and how much like the bounce will be scared of like the species and would be weak towards like the power of like species and all that. It's like definitely my personal represent for and so like I'm looking like at that point once like the backstory that Yoshino would be done revealing the backstory like it's around like at that point Silver was like of the game either Jin himself or like one of like the bounds of like Jin's like army like basically showing up or like it being like someone like basically showing up and basically would be like attacking both forcefully taking away both Yoshino as well as Ishida at that point like the scenario that after and that would be how like both Yoshino as well as like Ishida will be getting caught to like the base of like the mountain basically will be kept in like an important kind of like a situation. So like the scenario that I'm looking and then but the friend like not like a Uragawa showing up in front of like Ichigo and Pro as like the very next day and night as well Ichigo and Pro will like searching frantically desperately searching for like Ichigo and like the next night as they would be like searching for Ichigo like and Uragawa showing up and I'm also like Uragawa like leaving this like note and like Uragawa straight away disappearing and leaving just like that is like the scenario that I was doing. So like that note select my observation that would be that note would be that absolute trap set for like a given for to like show up to this exact location if they want to come back would be along the next minimum which is like I'm doing like right now I'm going definitely since like the situation right now is like Yoshino being with like Ishida and since because of that I'm also bring like Yoshino along with like Ishida Yoshino is very getting affected by like the strong members of like let's say numbers bring like because of this way numbers bring like you went through like totally showing up to that location, maybe even expecting like the possibility of like them being able to maybe negotiate with like Jim and like the remaining bounce and then being able to like save Ishida. Maybe with such a remote possibility of like a feeling will be which of like a naive feeling would be with which like I'm maybe it's going through would be that showing up to that location without realizing that that location where which would be on that note without realizing that it's like that ultimate trap set for like it's going through to like wipe out like the entire thing of like it's going through loading it to that like the scenario that I'm also bringing up right now in the membership. Like the name of the preemption that I'm sitting on this also that basically as for like the sound members like band and four that especially bound members with like the combined water dogs powers like basically also recent that basically even though setting in like Jin and like the remaining bound members like they will be laughing like I'm considering like that might have definitely been due to like I'm considering like definitely Jin and like the remaining bound members like totally might for a long time might have been seeing like one and four as like the weakest link as like their weakest link and like they might have totally got under might have not even been interested at all at like Ban and Ho being part of like the strong acceptance on bound armies the female with them. So like I'm doing like for a long time I'm doing like Jin and like the remaining bound members might have been like wanting to like get rid of that Ban and Ho. So like I'm doing like for all sorts of like missions like I'm doing they might have been always like straight away sending off that and Ban and Ho. Definitely expecting like them to like end up like getting eliminated during that mission. So like I'm looking for like it might be only right now that while fighting off against like it's going through that like ban and so that this might be considered as like the weakest link that like Jin and like the remain bound on this that would be having like absolutely no interest at all and want to like get rid of like might have ended up by instantly with 300. So my 300 right now for like major like the possibility that they that like in that section of like is being maybe either since that might have taken the life of like if it also not up. Or like because on it might have been worked in a first place that might have in the case but taken the life of like if it also not up. Back then like I'm looking like Ishida might have been a child and so like I'm looking like after might have taken the life of like Ishida also not up might have been when like might have even as part of like Jin's plan back then to that basically wipe out like the witches like the maybe because of like the fear of like the fear that like the monster might have had towards like the Genjis because like I'm definitely talking like the so represent like the distant past like I'm sure there might have been like great number of bounds in like the distant past then I was on like the those great number of among those great number of bounds like I'm going a great number of among them might have been also might have been doing this very thing where like they might have been like stealing the soul of humans that were alive and causing like the soul like world of follows to like open up more and more towards like the human world. Like Final Path is to like open up more and more to like the human world. Such an situation might have happened in like the way it is compassed with me with the so that might have resulted in like still in my preparation that like that might have resulted in like the sort of like soul society like who might have been not at all from so that basically bring down that of bounds that might have existed back then like the human world like and like the sort of army like on realizing like the Twin Chiefs naturally would be like having like a natural advantage against like the bounds like they might have totally aligned with like the Twin Chiefs and might have like tricked like the Twin Chiefs into like basically working for them and I'm also bring that way like the Twin Chiefs who might have been like kind hearted like might have agreed to that and might have helped out like the soldier because like take out like the bounces then like Jin and like the remaining bounds will be like survivors of like that mass extinction kind of like a situation that might have happened with like the bounce depending on the ceremony. So like since then I'm like Jin and like those might have probably had like fear towards like the producer of the human materials and might have been always in like the hiding but like I was like after a while like I was like soldiers might have totally got an overconfident thing that basically like the Twinkies might have wiped out like the entirety of like the bounce by now. It's definitely very great. So like I'm looking like so because then might have totally got confident and might have decided to like then wipe out like the Twinkies might have been what might have happened. So like I'm looking like that way one like the Twinkies numbers were like greatly reduced at that point. I was like the remaining bounds might have that might have been in hiding that fear of like the Twinkies that in that time might have slowly started to like make their move and might have started like target like the 20s, especially when the trend is so like that way like I'm saying might have been when like I was like it might have been like and eventually it might have been like according to Jill that plan in that while Yoshino almost like totally initially part of like Jill's group of like bounce like I'm saying it might have been about that Jill's ambition that basically the princes might have been targeted the remaining few princes who might have been not even living as like princes warriors but like might have been living like normal life exactly like that of like his father and like his mother like also like that these those might those twins might have gotten targeted like those remaining two twins that way at that point might have gotten targeted by like the remaining bounds might have been what might happen so like that way like I'm looking like according to like Jin ambitions and goals like wipe out like the remaining twins like I'm looking like either Jin himself might have taken the life of like Ishida another or like I'm looking like as part of Jin's role back then like I'm like Yoshino might have taken the life of like Ishida's mother. So like it might have been after like Yoshino taking the life of like Ishida's mother that like Yoshino might have even noticed that basically like basically maybe in like the other room like Yoshino in that building like Yoshino probably noticing that was like maybe like after like Shira might have been like the child Shira might have been present in that upper post in that very building. So like I'm looking might have been like after like taken taking the life of like Ishta's mother that like the child Ishta might have seen this and might have been totally shocked and might have been crying and trying to wake up like Ishta's like mother at that time might have been what like that traumatic shock of like kind of like the scene that under the bring that of that what like Yoshino might have seen at that point and shockingly realized like Yoshino might have never expected like might have not been able to think along the lines that basically while they were like fighting for this like wife of like the cities and everything like the fact that between these two had families and everything like that like might have never crossed like Yoshino's like mind at that point you know the region. While all this happening like Yoshino as well might have had like a lot of it's definitely also not so definitely there might have been like more friendship, but like I'm different like eventually like I'm different during this whole fighting like I'm different like to wipe out like the friendship I'm different like and at that point I was like Yoshino might have felt instead of like due to that extreme guilt setting in for like Yoshino back then might have been what might have happened. So like I'm just like then there might have been more friendships and like during like the war to like get rid of and wipe out like the remaining friendships like I'm just like Yoshino thought might have got into like in the middle of it and might have ended up trying to live on with the world. So like Yoshino at that point might have only felt that as like a basically like uh as for like Yoshino like been access like basically taking the life of like Ishira's mother and basically turning Ishida into like basically uh a lonely child like basically for Yoshino doing such a villainous thing like it was like the reciprocal effect happening like Yoshino is losing her thoughts. Might be along the lines like Yoshino might have felt so like that particular time kills might have been so strange to like Yoshino and so like my consideration like simple like Yoshino might have not been able to like for a great while for years like Yoshino might have not been able to like forget that face of like the child and like the crying Ishida and that definitely my friend but like I'm thinking after like some more great number of years uh might have passed like I'm like Yoshino might have felt like cold and basically might have been like that cold kind of like a mindset. And I was like it might have been recently in like the present while I was, just now recently like saw is rather like and I realized that like it's rather like it might be at that point that like might have instantly totally remember that it the visualize that child from back then like grown up. He definitely remember behind it. So like that kid and all those memories might have once again set in for like and that regret and everything might have once again set it for like might have been what might have happened. It's definitely my good impression. But like my good impression is like in the case of like it would have back then like well maybe the was that had taken like it was not of like across human good impression. If that was like in fact the case, then I would like Ishida in the case of Ishida back then maybe because of like Ishida being might have been so extremely young and maybe because of that reason, like Ishida might have only forgot about like the face of that woman he had seen that basically that had taken the life of like Ishida Naga. That basically Ishida on the other hand might have forgotten like the face of like that woman. So like and this might be the reason for like season two like Ishida not being able to like recognize Yoshino might be like the case like remote possibility when it was the younger dream. So like my dream is like right now as like Yoshino cause like Ishida eyes like lonely eyes like naturally like I'm like it might have been that very same lonely eyes of like a child Ishida that Yoshino might have seen in like the distant past while like Yoshino might have taken the life of like Ishida mother. It's definitely my personal impression as for like maybe what might have happened in the past range. Like the film range right now as for like the bounce having lived through like the shadows of history and basically having gone through extreme sufferings and everything like it might have been like from Jin's point of view, Jin would be totally seeing that for that like being like the sole result of like the 20 alone is the new member study. So like Jin and like the remaining towns would be totally seeing that as like the villainistic acts of like the 20s alone as like the 20s as like the ultimate villain. In actually it might have been like against the thing about the but like it might have actually been like from way back in like the 20s space that like it might have been like the work of like the soul reapers like basically tricking and manipulating like the 20s and turning like the 20s against like the bounce that might have resulted in like the bounce having to go through all that suffering and resulting into like them being forced to like live in the shadows of history within that time of the new celebration. So like rather than like exactly like in the case of 20s it's like in the case of like how like the total person like basically had approached like the situation with like frequencies without even like bothering at all to have like sort of conversation and trying to like make them aware of like what the things were doing wrong. Like I'm remembering like it might have been like similar case exactly with like in the case of like the bounce like in the case of like the wipeout or like excessive extension of like the majority of like the bounce as well. And like it might have been like a total a similar case. And like a method of like approach by like sort of where like the sort of might have not even bothered to like communicate with like the work or like to have like a discussion and to try to like convince them as for like the consequence of like basically stealing the source of human while humans are alive and all that. Like but definitely like the source of might have not even bothered to like bring about such to even have such a discussion or like even that way trying to like without using like force like or like fighting like to try to like in a peaceful manner to like bring out an awareness to try to like give an awareness to like the bounce like even through such a peaceful manner like and definitely like the soldiers might have not even bothered at all to like even do that definitely even though they could it's definitely was the temperature so definitely like I'm going to bring like as for like the bounce like they would have that experience not region but like the remaining bounce including like there was no all the remaining bounce remaining few bounce including Jim would be having that long, great number of years spanning deep direction towards like the into the legal operator. So this would be one main not only deep grudge, but like also that deep fear of like all the trauma and like all the suffering that might have gone through in like the recent past because of what they believe would be like solely due to like the injustice of living with like there might exist that like deep grudge, these trauma resulting fear as well within like the bounds like Jin and the others like connecting to like the 20s and connecting to like Insta rise. And this might be the reason for like them taking Ishida so extremely seriously and like specifically targeting Ishida so much, especially when with Ravers because like of like the bounds having their ultimate goal and then because like in the path of like their achieving their ultimate goal like right now, Jin will be only seeing that Ishida for instance as this like absolute fearful kind of like an obstacle in the cinema industry. Even though Ishida right now doesn't have access to his power, like I'm looking at definitely Jin and like the remaining bounds will be only steering like the possibility of like that power returning back to like Ishida at like any point. So like even before that happens, like to ensure that doesn't happen, like they will be like separate to like basically as quickly as possible to like basically find and capture Ishida and like to eliminate it. Definitely might be that actually affect the situation right now is definitely a possibility that I'm because I am like you know brain option right now like Jin going to like claim that as with power by capturing Ishida. Like I'm definitely since like the current situation is like Ishida, while being a country, yet like not having like almost like any of its like country access to any of the like country powers at all right now. And with like Udagawa and like Jin and all of them would be well and fully aware of this as well as the name of privilege. Yet like the fact that like Jin had basically summoned like all these like strong bound armies just for like the sole mission to like capture Israel. So he definitely due to like definitely even while Jin will be having that alternate goal to like basically to like but definitely Jin will be planning on like basically stealing and taking away like Ishida's soul while Ishida like alive and that way to like gain that absolute power. But like I'm doing still even for that like I'm doing like Jin will be so extremely afraid solely due to the factor that like we should have like against especially when it's due to that like long history from like the past where like the bounce might have suffered so much against like and might have also be crumbled against like the exceptional natural superior strength of like the 20s when connecting to like the bounce against like the bounce, especially against the bounce, especially when the Rem. So there was that deep fear within like Jin, and that was the present whole reason for like Jin, even while being aware that like while he should have like Jin, he should have not even having access to his like powers. Like the fact that Jin has like basically summoned up like an entire army of like bounce just to like solely to like capture the crowd, especially because of that much would be like the intensity of like the fear within like Jin and not just Jin, but like the long army that Jin have gathered, like basically to be that the fear within them connecting to that connecting to 20s will be that extreme, which they will be like totally hiding on the outside is definitely my personal impression right now. But that's definitely my impression right now as for like MakiIchinose. Like I'm different like MakiIchinose might be that very exact sound whom Canada basically has like the power to be able to like read those index departments, definitely memorization. For example, different that exact round would be currently like the second strongest round after like Jin. Different like that found especially in like the story of like Orahara, which like Orahara I think has told like to and fro about like Orahara like finding like a ratio of like bound outside his like lab while Orhara back then was like the head of like the research department and everything. Like I'm wondering what might have happened would be like it might be during then like I'm wondering like that whole attack against like using of like the Quincy's to like wipe out like the bound like thing might have been continuing and going on during that time. Definitely might have been like to wipe out like the bound from like the human world. Like this thing might have been going on during time, especially also like about the I'm so like I'm thinking back to like Mayuri might have been like the assistant of like Orahara in that research department in like the software. Just in the just like I'm looking back then like I'm doing it might have been Mayuri that might have gone up to like the world of like the living to basically with the constant to like capture one of like these pounds. It's definitely my favorite because like I'm believing Mayuri definitely since like Mayuri is like a scientist and basically have all this like different and unique power has like prevented on himself and built himself up so that like he has like all sorts of unique powers and everything gained through like definitely would be gained through Mayuri's like all sorts of unique experiments. It's definitely gonna be better. So definitely Mayuri at that point might have thought of like basically that's the idea of like basically villainous kind of like plan to like basically to attack one of like the bomb. Since like the current situation during that might have been like the definitely I'm during like the bounce while being naturally weak towards like the twin seasons like the scenario that I'm doing. But like the bounce is naturally strong up to like the total to total like about what is that I'm doing. Against like the total to like the bounce will be naturally strong up. The team also meant to so like I'm looking like maybe since like during that time like it might have been like a scenario where like the Quincy's were like basically according to like their allegiance with like the sword reapers like the Quincy's might have been like only at, attacking and wiping out like the bounce. And considering like Mayuri at that point might have thought of like taking advantage of that situation. So like I'm but to like for me capture and abduct a bound and to like experiment on like a bound and basically that way to like through that experiment to like steal away like the bound power to basically like power of like immortality by like stealing a human soul, like basically not a human soul, but stealing a soul and basically like the ability of like the bound to be able to like live forever by stealing souls. Like basically Mayuri might have wanted that power and that way for like Mayuri to turn himself into like immortal. Mayuri might have decided the plan. So like that way like I'm sure Mayuri might have stealthily left to like the human world and might have precisely ended up finding like this like specific Maki Ichino's like bound like basically in like struggling against the stupidity in like a fight. So like I'm doing right and like I'm doing like as like that he might have been about to take Maki Ichino's like I'm doing like at that point that Mayuri might have told that Quincy to like stop and I'm thinking Mayuri might have at that point get to run up that away that Maki Ichino might have been what might have happened. Like, Mayuri might have secretly brought Maki Ichino to like the Soul Society to like the research department lab and they live there like I'm without like without telling Urahara like I'm like in like the absence of like Urahara while like after work like Urahara will be like leaving like the lab like at that point like Mayuri might have experimented on like Maki Ichino and tried to like might have tried to like steal away his powers of like the bound might have been what might have happened. So like maybe I'm supposed to what might have happened would be like during that attempt of like Mayuri like I'm like Maki Ichino might have still had like a remaining might have recovered enough to like the point of like having enough power to be able to like or for easily or for like Mayuri might have been what might have happened. So like Magichinos that way might have attacked Mayuri and might have might have escaped from like the lab and this might be how like the ratio of like a bound was like found by Orahara. Maybe next day my like Orahara finding that ratio of like the bound might have happened if they were the man was looking at the so or like I'm like Orahara might definitely I'm like Orahara like in that story like it's even true where like Orahara told it even true that he has found like the ratio of like about outside like the lab in like the impulse like I'm like Orahara might have been totally lying to like it even true because like Orahara might have not felt the need to like elaborate on that the whole escape of like Maki Ichinos and about like Mayuri like experimenting on trying to like experiment on Maki Ichinos and trying to like steal Maki Ichinos house and all that. So like about into that episode. So that maybe Urahara might not be aware of what exactly it was that like Mayuri was like experiment trying to like experiment on Maki Ichinos. But definitely what might have happened would be like Maki Ichinos might have for Mayuri and like Maki Ichinos might have escaped like the lab and might have been frantically trying to like escape out of like the radius also. Like it might have been what might have happened. It's definitely not the like back then like I'm living it will be during then that I'm like the alarm might have rang and basically about this intruder in like charity. And like I'm position like Maki of like I'm position like all the broadcasters and all of them might have been trying to like capture Maki of but like I'm position like Maki of might have still managed to like escape. So like I'm doing back then like I'm doing Kenpachi as well as like Yachiro might have been like broadcasted and Lutheran back then as well. The new frame so like I'm doing like this would be the precise reason for like Yachiro even knowing like the name Maki Ichino. So also like about the data. So like back then like I'm doing Kenpachi as well as like Yachiro as well might have confronted and tried to like stop and capture like that this intruder Maki Ichino found. But like I'm doing that found might have easily offered and defeated Kenpachi and might have kept on running away and escaping. Might have been what like happened. And that might have been an absolute shock to like Yachiro as well as Kenpachi. And the exceptional power of like Maki is not bound. I will definitely remember Kenpachi. So definitely this might be how like Yachiro and Kenpachi even knows of like MakiIchinose and all that. It's definitely not the so like after that like I'm looking back and like MakiIchinose might have escaped the bound MakiIchinose might have only managed to like easily escape from like the whole society and might have re-entered back into like the world of like the living into like the human world and might have since then might have been like also like hiding even to the present might have been what might have happened to the brain. So since then like MakiIchinose might have been like constantly like hiding and like I don't like hearing like the possibility of like another abduction or something and definitely and even fearing like the winter and everything. So like I'm going like MakiIchinose like since then might have been hiding and I'm looking for like it might have been since like it's already been revealed that it's only now after like very long time like it's only now that like they are like the Kenpachi and also not like basically sensing like the spiritual pressure of like markets, the fraud time like I'm going to this resilience only due to like the summoning of like Jin, which is like the sole reason for like them being able to like once again sense like the spiritual pressure of like markets, the framework. So like even back then, like there was some like markets, might have definitely known Jin as definitely never brain but so definitely even though that each of like, these bounds might have been on that living in like the shadows and hiding like Amazon still they might have that been up to date as for like the growth of that Jin and all those bound for power definitely never brain. But like I was like when Jin might have summoned Monkey, like Jin might have told Monkey, that basically there's nothing to worry that it's uh not going to be him alone, but like all the remaining bound like are all going to be summoned by Jen Ladders who might have revealed that. And this will be like the reason for like MakiIchinose at that point. So like I'm going might be only at that point that like MakiIchinose might have felt relaxed and relieved. So like I'm going like that might be like sole reason for like MakiIchinose like coming out of this hiding and like by getting summoned by Jen and like so like that way like while MakiIchinose sort of like basically that them being able to like sense like the different sort of like MakiIchinose would be like all the way from like the social society might be due to the certain alone is definitely because of like market also right now like the fucking feeling safe while in like the presence of Jin and like all the other remaining strong down definitely by the 300. The level of 300 right now with like Kenpachi as well as like Kituya as well as like Sipage or right now realizing about like the resurfacing of like the like market which from Jap to like the different like definitely because of the service numbers of like eventually in that force final war against like the found army of like Jin and his like group was of like Ichigo and Pro in which like the Yoshino will be fighting on Ichigo's side like that. Instead side like I'm during in that fighting like in that war like I'm like eventually like maybe Jin's group that eventually ending up totally off for Ichigo's group eventually at some point it's like also like about or like I'm doing like basically like Jin's army like totally while maybe like it was group like probably like Ishida regaining back his like in sleep out like while like the scenario that I'm doing that way like while he goes to that group like if and also movie like starting that for Jin's like army like maybe at that point like one of like Jin's members like basically putting physical and crew in like the difficult kind of like a situation where like they will be like threatening physical and crew with like maybe taking the life of like one of their members that may not be present. And definitely in like definitely bringing that fight like it went pro ending up eventually ending up at that fight for this also eventually I'm looking at them ending up in like a difficult kind of like a situation where like it went pro won't be able to like do anything at all. So like I'm looking it will be neither Ishida nor Ichigo will be able to do anything at all to like stop like the wrong that such a situation will be happening and it will be at that point that I'm looking for like the unexpected entry of like basically of like the soul rebels from like society, like squad captains from like society happening. Definitely I was really like an budget at that point will be showing up as like the stage of like help people go out. And I was wondering like maybe along with like empathy that tip guy as well as like Chicago maybe showing up. So like them showing up together, but like also like a to that and that way like the tire of like the battle finally changing in like the favor of like Ishida and Ichigo and group. And that way like the round being defeated is like also like an usual scenario in that fighting that basically for him with Greenbush. According to my book, Greenbush once like MakiIchinose would be totally about like might have roughly might have been trying to like escape like the captivity of like Mayuri and like escape from like the Serage and like Soul Serage and like the about like Emperor like in that or attempt to like escape like I'm looking like while also from like SWAT captains might have tried to like stop and like and fail like I'm thinking one of the SWAT captains back then might have might have been persistent from, and he might have been persistent in trying to stop MakiIchinose. So at that point I was MakiIchinose attempt to escape because technically MakiIchinose might have already felt that basically since that's what happened might have been extremely persistent MakiIchinose might have felt that basically if he wants to escape successfully escape he will have to basically eliminate that squad captain. So maybe that is about MakiIchinose might have taken the life that squad captain that bound might have taken the life of that squad captain. That MakiIchinose bound might be so from that it might have taken the life of that squad captain. Might have been what might have happened. That will accelerate might have been one of its top squad captains to the power of this MakiIchinose bound is also was it that story and then it might be then that MakiIchinose might have escaped and this might be the reason for there being so much of important to specifically the name MakiIchinose alone when it comes to Kenpachi and Yatsuro as well as Hitsugaya and all of them it's definitely not the same person. So it will be precisely because of this thing that MakiIchinose might have done in the bounce or MakiIchinose might have taken the life of Zocap. It's definitely a possibility that I'm looking at frame. If in areas not possibility that that step of the one of the Zocap which might have happened due to MakiIchinose and the might have not just been that a Zocap, but I'm the other Zocap as well might have taken significant injuries by the or even strength of the bound MakiIchinose might have been what might have happened in past the brain. So I'm looking one the board reach into say I'm looking maybe Mayuri might have totally pricked Urahara might have totally framed things around into and framed Urahara into it, making it seem as if it was Urahara's doing that basically. It was Urahara that basically had basically secretly sneaked in a bound into Sterity for Urahara's experience and along this line examples of Mayuri might have steadily framed Urahara and maybe that might be how Urahara might have not only lost this position as a squad captain as well as being the head of the research department as well as basically Urahara being drawn off from from charity. All that might have happened through such a manner. So also a possibility that and that way Urahara being replaced with Mayuri as well as the head of the research department and as replacing Urahara's position as well as a squad captain. All might have happened simultaneously during that period of time. Might have been what might have happened. It's also a possibility that I'm looking for the game. Maybe it might have been in that vacancy of that squad captain that his that MakiIchinose might have taken in the Simba. Might have been in that vacancy that maybe Isimaru might have managed to sneak in as one of the squad captains. It's also a possibility that I'm looking for another frame. So the name frame right now as for MakiIchinose being the lieutenant of Kenpachi right now in the person side very same MakiIchinose being one of the bound to member of the team and what might have happened will be more likely because that is about due to that whole dispute and because MakiIchinose might have been the Soul Society might have been fed up with the Soul Society and I'm maybe back then MakiIchinose might have been someone who might have been totally taking violent definitely for revolution. So the revolution this might have been the and sole reason for MakiIchinose being fed up with Kenpachi and the society and the Soul Society and everything might have decided to live a peaceful life in the world of living might have been what might have happened with the film of the friend. So while MakiIchinose had came to second world but what might have happened might have been the first thing that MakiIchinose might have seen might have been at that point what MakiIchinose might have seen might have been Quincy trying to take the life of a human might have been what MakiIchinose might have thought while that human might have been actually Jin and I'm also this Quincy might have been trying to take in Jin's goal to basically to might have been that then might have been to wipe out the remaining few Quincies after the soul records are wiped out the majority of the Quincies I'm looking the very few Quincies I'm looking at that point definitely Jin might have definitely attempted to take advantage of that situation get revenge on the Quincies to wipe out the Quincies. So I'm looking during this time I'm looking a battle between Jin and one of the Quincies might have taken place and I'm looking in that battle I'm looking it might have been the Quincies that might have totally or Jin and might have been about to take Jin's life and somebody like it might have been at that very last second that I'm good like MakiIchinose might have showed up to like the human world and like the first thing he might have seen might have been or like he might have ran into like this uh alleyway area where like he might have seen like this like Quincy about to take the life of like what like MakiIchinose might have straight away assumed that was like a human, but it might have been like Jin like the boundaries that you know bringing. So like I'm really like right then at like that since Jin might have been about to take Jin like I'm it might have been Maki Chin of that might have like stop either stop that Quincy or like might have attack that Quincy and badly injure that Quincy and might have saved Jin. That's definitely what might have happened in the human version. So like I'm from like after Maki Jin might have not only saved Jin but might have also raised up Jin like Jin might have been extremely like appreciative of like everything Maki Jin did. So like I'm thinking at that point might have told Maki Jin how he's like from that day on he's going to be part of like Jin like through of bounds and everything. So like I'm thinking it might be only at that point that Maki Jin might also only realize like the kind of villain character Jin was and like the fact that Jin is like a bounce and like basically about like the bounce still being alive and even to the present like all this like I'm looking like Maki Jin might have only learned of only at that point like the scenario that I was doing and like I'm looking like Jin might have introduced Maki to like the remaining bounce group of like to settling on so like back then as well Jin might have summoned all the remaining bounce and basically Jin might have summoned all the remaining bounce and basically at that point like I'm looking like Maki might have probably and might have introduced MakiIchinose to like the remaining bounce and Jin might have told the remaining bounce that like, he's going to be one of the even though he's not about and he's like a full reaper uh he's like trustworthy and like he's going to be part of like our army from the along the lines like Jin might have told that all of them is like what might have happened. So like that way from that day on like MakiIchinose might have been ended up being part of like the boundary technique of Jin is what might have happened to so like I'm just like MakiIchinose might have been since then might have been observing how much of like the villains of that Jin was doing and like maybe during that like Jin might have even revealed like MakiIchinose or like Jin's like ultimate goal. So like I'm going MakiIchinose who might have been totally against like violence and everything and might have been totally been absolutely determined to like how determined to like and might be desperate for like peace and everything to maintain peace everywhere to avoid all battles and everything. So that Marquez yet like might have realized that the situation he was in and like Amber like even though Marquez might have badly wanted to like seek the help of like Kenpachi and like the other protectors from like the souls they can bring awareness to them about like this like villain of Indian reflected on and everything. Amber like the ego of like Marquez might have already got in the way of like seeking help from like the soul society and from Kenpachi after like he voluntarily had left all the to and left so waited behind like and when that insecurity and ego might have totally gotten in the way of like my teaching of seeking help of like the sympathy and service for getting from like so society might have been what might have happened so like I'm like my teaching of might have been since then like might have been painfully witnessing how much like of like a villain like the Jin as well as like the remaining bounce was and like the villain plans and like Marquis might have been trying to like find out trying to like figure out a way to like stop them but like I'm feeling like while maintaining that absolute disguise and stealth as if like it's part of like their group as if like their own like Marquis on its own like side of like the ones of like side of like Jin while pretending and putting on that fake act like Marquis Cape Town might have had that absolute desire to like bring about like the destruction about them to stop the bounce Jin and like the remaining bounce for one time for the discussion of the like I'm looking like eventually but yet, like market might have not been like preventing at all. Definitely what might have happened. So like I'm remembering it might be doing right now as like things were getting worse and worse up to like the point like it might have crossed all limits of like market that I'm looking like market right now as like market might have only might be like actually faced with right now with will be like only faced with like the reality of the situation where like the tunnel to like the world of follow will be getting soon getting like that will be the situation like that tunnel will be soon getting like easily opened up and like with like a lot of follows coming like rushing in and consuming the agenda that the human was like while faced with such a critical situation from like my point of view like I'm a little bit like my might have finally let go of his like huge ego and like insecurities and might have decided to like seek the help of finally might have decided to like brought himself to like decide to like seek the help of like the Soul Society of like the squad captains in like the Soul Society is to stop Jin and his like army of bombs. Before that happens, before that tunnel voices once of like and like the entire with the whole army rushing into like the human world and destroy the human world. Before that happens, like to save like the human world and to like stop like the Jin and like the remaining bombs, like I'm looking at Ichinos right now might have consciously like totally stop hiding this like physical pressure to like that way like without him actually going up and basically seeking the help of like Kenpachi and like the project to still so that like without doing that to still let them know that like he's alive and so when like MakiIchinose right now would be totally expecting like Kenpachi and like the others to like basically show up to like the human world in like search of like MakiIchinose and at that point like I'm looking like for like MakiIchinose to like team up with them to like totally bring down uh Jin and like the other bounds will be like MakiIchinose plan right now. Especially so like right now like for like all of them right now itself like for like Kenpachi and I mean, like, look at that game today, and one of them, like, being like, sent, like, my suddenly sent, like, my Jason of crystal pressure will be consciously done by my Jason of to have them eventually show up to like the human board and show that way to use all that strength of its captain to like actually fight again, like, the bound to like stop Jane and the other that way. So if you look that genuine good intent that like my Jason of right now would be like allowing that as a whole society to be able to like send to like spiritual pressure also done right now. It's definitely not really a question of what like what might be actually happening. So like definitely I'm looking for like an eventual betrayal by MakiIchinose and MakiIchinose eventually like mid battle like I'm looking for like during that final battle between like Jin and his like army of bounds like going through I'm going to find that at some point like I'm going to be a betrayal from like MakiIchinose and MakiIchinose along with like Yoshino fighting alongside the side of like went through against like the team of like the bound army of like Jin and like the remaining bound and like the remaining scenario that I'm going to another train picture right. The train picture right now is that they don't understand about like can fight strong enough to like basically or for and defeat like the former squad captain of like the squad of like Kenpachi like still from Martin's point of view like it might have not been just like the strength of like Kenpachi's strength might have had like absolutely no value to like MakiIchinose because like I'm looking back to like MakiIchinose might have been so extremely of like might have been so extremely fond of and like might have had this like absolute respect and might have been totally proud of like being independent of like the squad to which like that sort of squad captain is like the squad captain of it's definitely memorable and the reason would be precisely because of like that sort of squad captain's like extreme mature way of like seeing things and things like extreme empathy and everything is definitely my betrayal to go. And like that form of squad captain might have been someone who might have even try to like solve things like he's like genuine care and concern for his like lieutenant like and all that might have been what that basically like might have only attracted like Maki Ichinos to like the feeling to forming that absolute respect and feeling so proud of like being with lieutenant might have been what might have happened. It's definitely very much so might have been like the situation with Black Magic and also like the past definitely one of the remedy and for the different still for them to like still struggle eventually struggle against like the box even with like Ishida and like Ishida to give up definitely able to be like them struggling due to like some sort of like an abduction kind of like a reason or some like definitely the one to take them like threatening it's going through with like taking the life of like one of like a different like the scenario that I'm doing. That way, like through such a manner, like I'm doing it's when all of them being in like a difficult situation, even with like MakiIchinose as well as like Yoshino fighting on their side, like them being in that tough spot. And at that point would be when I'm also like Kenpachi who right now has has said to like basically leave him alone, like leave MakiIchinose alone, like to not go there, like I'm still deep down Kenpachi definitely would be caring about like even though the person will be having that space within him are where people generally care for like matters and so like definitely emphasizing like empathy would definitely will be showing up towards like where my age notes will be towards where and all of them will be and it will be with like 10 pages and along with most likely Hitsugaya and Uketake that like critical information will be like the side of the battle and stopping and defeating and bring the downfall of like him and the like down armies like the definitive intel scenario that is sitting on the range. So for business side, like even though the standards like market, but wasn't able to like accept like Kenpachi as like his like forget and like I'm also saying definitely I'm also saying that even though MakiIchinose even to the present will be genuinely still believing that Kenpachi is like still not a compassionate or like an empathetic person, like his like former great squad captain was like I'm also saying like still I'm also saying like Kenpachi through this like current situation I'm also saying like Kenpachi eventually proving MakiIchinose wrong that basically Kenpachi is like not just all about like a cold person who's like totally only solely focused on strength and strength alone and doesn't have a heart like Kenpachi is not a person like that would be what like on the different Kenpachi would be like totally proving to like Maki Chino like without like great like so Kenpachi's actions of like Kenpachi himself like showing up all the way from like the society to like the human world uh, to like basically and basically fighting alongside Masti, like precisely while I'm the scenario would be like in that whole fight between like you went through army versus like Jin and like Jin's army of like the mount like I'm in which like in that fight like I'm throwing one like Masti would be betraying them and fighting alongside each other and so it's like the scenario that I'm doing and at that point I'm doing like as that fight or the like Jin most likely totally about to Jin totally attacking, eventually ending up attacking like MakiIchinose and MakiIchinose taking a lot of injuries and like Jin totally making MakiIchinose suffer. And I'm looking like as like Jin would be about to take MakiIchinose's life. But that very last second is when I'm looking precisely when like MakiIchinose will be totally feeling up like would be feeling as if like he's about to die by the hands of Jin. Because like at that point like it went the other husband would be probably getting awkward and would be like struggling to for their own survival themselves in that fight. So like I'm looking like as like Mati, really almost like about to like accept that like he would be right now about to die by the hands of like Jin, by the hands of Jin, like at that very last second when I'm looking Kenpachi would be showing up as that absolute hero savior and I'm looking like Kenpachi totally saving like Mati, from Jin is like the scenario that I'm looking for. So like I'm looking like at that point, I'm looking like Maki Chinok be getting that absolute biggest shock, and like only at that point that Maki Chinok would be getting that absolute realization that basically like that he had like misunderstood Kenpachi that like Kenpachi to share like deep down shares like the very that very same compassion and like, empathy and concern towards like his lieutenant that like just like former squad captain should had basically since like even after like all this great number of years after like Marty had remained left like so that again remained in that contact kind of like a situation with like for still like the fact that like Kenpachi that without much great delay after like Marty like allowing this like still pressure to be restricted by eventually plus the society like Kenpachi like totally quickly showing up to like save Marty that aspect like Kenpachi like totally to be like shocking market is to like the scenario that I'm referring and definitely this is like right now even Kenpachi and Yatsuro even finding out about like markets still being alive solely being through like one of like their lieutenants like revealing about like him or hearing like the conversation between that Okitake and Kitsuga about like markets like I'm looking so definitely I'm looking this would be one thing that right now markets will be well fully aware of so like I'm looking right now that like markets won't be at all even expecting Kenpachi to like show up to like save markets like even markets like undoing like the whole hiding of like stuff right now. So this only intended towards like other plot captions and not Kenpachi. Like definitely my teachers right now would be well fully aware that basically Kenpachi won't be able to like spiritual pressure and even if like the and it will be only like the other plot captions that will be able to like detect like spiritual pressure from like society and even if they told Kenpachi about like them sensing like spiritual pressure, even then like Kenpachi definitely won't be showing up at all. Would be what like Maki is not working like straight away assuming believing the so like Maki is not right now turning up which like undoing like hiding up on like crystal process would be only intended solely intended for like the other socket other than Kenpachi to for like them to possibly show up to like help Maki out and price like the amount would be like the current situation and what like market will be believing. So like developing eventually can by breaking all that assumptions and misunderstanding of like market concerning Kenpachi and I'm basically that creating that absolute respect within like market towards like Kenpachi and basically definitely that point I'm different market after that fight against like the bounce would be over like I'm different like market like totally not only thanking but like also telling sorry to like Kenpachi and I'm like market like also asking that Kenpachi if that Kenpachi would take Maki, back to his like spot as like entrepreneur. And just like the scenario that I'm doing. And Kenpachi totally totally maybe in like attacking him in like a non-serious manner and straight away taking him to the like Kenpachi to like back to like the whole society. It's like even just definite scenario that I'm looking in that way. Like I'm looking like Kenpachi to be I mean like Maki's like returning to being part of that. I look at like a look on like in like Kenpachi's squad. It's like even just scenario just a scenario that I'm looking for the right now. So like definitely interesting right now as for like Yoshino playing characters when saying that she can't forgive Jin. Like I'm looking like the reason would be due to that even while Yoshino prepared the backstory, like it won't be like the entire full picture of that story. Like she might have definitely not but she might have definitely kept a lot of details from Ishida by revealing her backstory. And one of that crucial detail might have been definitely been the fact of that like Fuyusu Jin and his like Fuyusu Jin and his like ambitions like everything like they might have Jin and like you know wife living together like everything they might have actually had that at all and like basically that sort of might have died so they ended up dying usually that Jin and like ambitions depending on the direction and just like Jin like and definitely like the another one definitely even though like the flavors of that fish might have only been once like found out about that like might have realized like that's true now that even though that has to reveal that they want to head towards like change wasn't like actual true love that and something like it may have been once like have adult that it might have been at that point that might have been so realized so that kind of like and actually genuine through boundless feeling that love felt like when might have realized that for the first time in her life when she might have had a dog. It was definitely one of the parents. So like Yoshino's daughter might have been her absolute beacon of hope and everything in her life. But like I'm really believe that that daughter might have been dying as part of that mutual concern of like the negative consequence of that Jin and his like ambition. Definitely the ambition. This might be the reason right now for Yoshino even clenching her fist while saying that she can't forgive Jin. It's definitely in my consideration, that's right. But Leon Granson right now, as for like Yoshino wanting to defeat Jin all by herself. Like I'm thinking what Yoshino might be plan would be like I'm thinking that like Yoshino would be totally as well as certain that they by herself then she won't be able to like actually fight and defeat Jin. Even if it's like Jin all by himself, like basically, if it's like a one versus one fight between that Yoshino and Jin itself, like face to face one versus one fight between that Jin versus like Yoshino itself, like Yoshino definitely won't be able to like at all defeat and bring down Jin will be one thing that Yoshino will be certain of that. So like I'm wondering what Yoshino plan would be. Yoshino's plan would be that like definitely since like it's not just Jin since there's like all this great number of bound that's like a part of like the goals and ambitions working for and like helping Jin to like achieve like ambition. I'm looking like what from Yoshino's point of view, what Yoshino will be thinking that like if Yoshino also that at least able to with that absolute stealth and trickery is at least able to that even if it's through her sacrificing her life that Yoshino will be planning on like basically trying to take Jin along with her. Uh, Jin's life as well along with her would be what like Yoshino would be totally planning. It's definitely my brain research. So like that way without the lead or without like the leader of those bounds, like without Jin and his like ambitions like I'm looking that definitely the remaining bound with bound members will be just getting scattered and will be like going on their own paths and basically won't be like creating more trouble that with like Jin's absence would be along the lines like I'm going Yoshino would be totally thinking. So like I was doing especially with like Yoshino right now talking about like that talking about the like, Yoshino wanting to like experience that limitlessness like that human I mean like that limitlessness feeling due to like the certain limited lifespan of like humans like everything like definitely this would be what like Yoshino would be actually planning to like basically to go out while taking like through that absolute stealth and trickery to like go out while taking Jin along with her and to like save like the world of living and that everything by doing so as well from Jin and to like children would be what like Yoshino's plan would be right now. It's definitely my opinion. Little redemption right now is for like right now it's for like Yoshino totally leave with Ishida. And I'm like especially with like how extremely indifferent and kind Yoshino has like a bounce is when compared to like the other bounce. Like I'm like that coupled with like the whole connection that like Ishida feels towards like Yoshino when connecting to like Ishida's own mother. Like I'm definitely Ishida simply like I'm looking while Ishida would be like healing up like I'm looking still. Ishida won't be like Ishida after like Yoshino would be leaving like Ishida would be totally feeling absolutely restless and Ishida would be totally even feeling guilt and regret for like him not stopping Yoshino. And basically, him not stopping Yoshino is like the scenario that I'm looking for. Like, you should already only having that same constant, like, restlessness and disturbed feeling. For like the possibility of like Yoshino definitely ending up dying by the Jin's hands. So, like, I'm like, definitely, like, the scenario that I'm looking for, like, you should have totally getting over, like, basically, just like feeling of like wanting to, like, stay away from like each one to one like to keep them protected and instead like everything that is not only come to like the mindset of like basically of prioritizing more than anything to like ensure to like save those you know to like everything to make that happen and also like if you are deciding to like to straight away go up to that which go and pro and I'm looking that way like I'm looking like and during that time like I'm looking each one person would be at like or have a shop so like there and they're like I'm looking like it should have showing up and I'm looking like it should have the plan would be to like it's the forming its own strategy to like bring down it and like the remaining pounds and I'm like and to save what you know and for that like the strategy that should have would be coming down to would be to like seek the help of Kurahara because like of like Kurahara's mystery and like Kurahara's like such an knowledgeable person and everything like to like find a way to like basically to be able to like react for Ishida to be able to like react to like 20 powers like this would be what like Ishida would be seeing as that abuse pricing. So like I'm remembering like actually that would be like totally planning what Ishida I'm remembering maybe also like about that like Ishida totally planning to like basically actually since like after like seeing how much like the bounce are basically targeting specifically like the Quincy Ishida like in Ishida would be able being able to like figure out or like come to the conclusion that like so that's the bounce that would be like even like the strongest them and pick the bounce and all of them would be like okay afraid of that if that inaccurate and while Ishida events doesn't have any access to reflection because the fact that like the bounce are like so desperately targeting specifically that would be due to like them totally extremely having that fear deep down towards like Quincy would be one thing that I'm looking for like Ishida would be like of like a conclusion that Ishida would be coming to. So like I'm looking like Ishida and it's like mind like I'm looking Ishida deciding to like basically to seek for her help to go up to like for her shop and seek for her help to like figure out a solution for Ishida to be able to like gain back and train with like for her to be able to like for Ishida to be able to like usually get back to like 20 power and then for like Ishida himself to like go up uh, to like the base of like the bounce and for like Ishida to like bring down like Jin and like the other bounce and for Ishida to like uh, save Yoshino would be like this like plan and strategy that like Ishida would get only planning to make it in the scenario that I'm doing. But like I'm looking like and I'm feeling more just about it right now like the scenario to be like Ishida maybe wanting to like keep it going for safe. So like I'm looking like Ishida would be hoping that like there will be the Kurahara alone at like Kurahara stop. So like I'm looking like Ishida might be also going up to like Kurahara stop, even planning on like while planning to like tell Kurahara to like not reveal about like Ishida all by himself, like planning to like attack, training and planning to like attack and bring down like all the bound by himself to like it again to keep them safe. Like would be along the lines like Ishida would be totally planning to like tell Urahara as Ishida would be by himself would be heading over to like Urahara's shop. But like I'm feeling they are like they're getting the biggest surprise with like I'm looking like if we used to go and I'm looking maybe like it would be while Ishida would be training with like Urahara that which went through this showing up or like I'm looking like went through would be already present there while Ishida would be showing up to like for her shop to also like about that I'm doing and maybe I'm looking due to like Ishida losing a lot of like Quincy powers like I'm doing maybe like Ishida not being able to like precisely with that absolute precision maybe right now in like the potential be able to like sense like the presence of like Ichigo and the others in a remote manner. It's also like a possibility that I'm doing. So like maybe due to that reason like Ishida not being able to like tell that like maybe while Ichigo and Pro would be there at like to her shop, like Ishida not being able to like realize that, and basically Ishida entering to her shop and totally that we're running into like Ichigo and all of them, like the scenario that I'm doing. And that point itself I'm looking like Ichigo and all of them getting extremely angry with like Ishida. And then like I'm looking like the truth being forced out of like Ishida as for like and Ishida's absolute disaster like to save Yoshino and stop Jin and all of that and all of them, and then looking at actually Ichigo like taking descent into like Ishida and basically finally Ishida being convinced that basically it's okay to like take the help of like son Ichigo and group, that they are all willing to like sacrifice their life, put their life at risk to like basically to for like great absolute cross and for Fisher and all of them. So like basically that way like them all like probably training together and like Ohara stop and Ohara training all of them together quickly, and basically them all like getting ready and like them all like together like heading off towards like the base of like the bounce to like basically to rescue, to bring down Jin and to rescue Yoshino with like different scenarios that I'm given. But like I'm during that war, like that whole fight, like I'm initially at some point I'm definitely putting like Yoshino ending up sacrificing her life in between that war, like I'm like maybe like Yoshino and the Supreme most likely sacrificing her life to like protect Ishida from like one of like Jin's like attack, while Ishida would be like only distracted at some point, like maybe like uh, maybe like Jin trying to like take uh, Ishida's life. So like at that point, maybe like Yoshino like sacrificing her life, like protect Ishida from like Jin's attack, and maybe that's like the possibility that maybe that might be what like awakens and like makes it possible for like Ishida to be able to like react with like 20 powers, like seeing like Yoshino like risking her life and like ending up dying while trying to like protect Ishida from Jin. Like basically that especially since like Ishida definitely feels like a similarity to like its mother to like Yoshino. Like definitely I was bringing that to the totally talking about Ishida, and that phrase the thing that Ishida totally bringing out and being making it possible for Ishida to like actually like to give out. So like an equal scenario that I'm doing. Definitely I'm thinking Yoshino won't be surviving that final uh fight between like the team of Nakichigo and Cross, Ishida and all of them against like the team of like Jin and like the remaining bound armies, like in the scenario that I was bringing to animation. But to bring maybe like a scenario where like after like protecting Ishida from like some extremely strong attack of like Jin, and basically like Yoshino due to like the swing injuries from that attack would be about to die like about to die in like Ishida's arms. Like at that point, maybe like Yoshino, the final words of Yoshino maybe being that like at least towards like the end of like Yoshino's like life, because like she will be feeling as like meaningless, like at least towards the end of her life, like her life has basically she was able to like find her life had meaning at least towards like the very end. Maybe along the line with like a dialogue that I'm looking at maybe Yoshino telling Ishida right before have that it's like also like an angel of the scenario that I'm looking for the bring and the minimum prevention right now is like even with like Ishida outbreak helps to like Yoshino. Definitely I'm just bring like Yoshino will be definitely straight away rejecting Ishida like helps the minimum prevention. You like the last thing Yoshino would want would be to like through Ishida helping Yoshino like Ishida as well getting ending up dying in the process, and basically Jin as well getting that the power of that, even more than Jin getting the power of Ishida. Definitely I was like Yoshino definitely would be having that kind of empathetic feeling towards like Ishida, and the last thing she would want would be for like Ishida to like end up dying with the name of the mission right now lacks the one of like Jin's like found member right now even showing up like I'm definitely I'm looking like the scenario to be like Yoshino rejecting Ishida's like offer to help and like Ishida being first to tell that like he wants to help. So while they would be like having this like for interaction between each other, while it would be during then that I'm referring that found member of like of Jin would be like showing up there with like the scenario that I'm so like straight away like I'm like him like straight away targeting Ishida and not Yoshino. Like that found member I'm just straight away targeting Ishida, like straight away charging into that attack and catch up like Ishida like the scenario that I'm with straight away like I'm sort of like Yoshino like trying to like protect Ishida, and I'm sort of the fight between like Yoshino and that found member like happening. And I was thinking like while that fight would be happening, like you know, shouting out to like you should also like run away and escape and save his life and basically like And Ambassador like Yoshino would be struggling against like that other bound person. So like I'm looking like to be even stronger than Yoshino like the scenario that I'm doing. So like I'm doing Yoshino would be doing her absolute best to like hold him off and by time for like it should to like escape. So like I'm just like we should like even though initially would be like only would be like won't be able to like bring himself to like run away like I'm like he was not struggling and he was repeatedly shouting at like we should actually like escape like the scenario that I'm doing. So like at that point that absolute reluctance feel like running away from that building and trying to like escape like the scenario that I'm doing. But like I'm doing as like without there like running away like I'm like the everything about like Yoshino since like the first time you should have seen Yoshino like everything that she said that like and all their interaction and everything like I'm flashing through like it should have mind that like that would be like trying to like escape and saving that. So like I'm running definitely eventually I'm looking like that bounce guy like I'm usually offer and probably offering and and I'm looking like since like the top priority is to like capture Ishida and bring Ishida to like Jenna but maybe like and like the situation would be like making it like totally impossible for like him to like totally leave Yoshino and go off instead of like the scenario that I'm just so like I'm just maybe like him getting fed up eventually and him deciding to like take the life of Yoshino and then go after him taking the life him like deciding to like take the him getting fed up and him deciding to like take the life of Yoshino and then go after like Ishida to capture Ishida. Like the scenario that I'm doing. So like I'm doing as like that bound member will be about to take Yoshino's life, but that very last second that I'm like uh, Ishida totally showing up and Ishida totally stopping his like attack. It's like the scenario that I'm doing. And at that point, I was like totally both Yoshino as well as that bound member like totally being absolutely shocked because like at that point, like Ishida would have regained back his like 20 powers, like the scenario that I'm doing. Because like of that extreme situation where like Yoshino being about to die by the hands of that bound member, like I think that critical situation might have only forced like that pressure, like probably forcing should have to be able that need to like save that desperate need to like save like Yoshino and also like making it possible for like that very last second like being able to like access access back to Ishida's like 20,000 like at that point to again to maybe should have like only saving Yoshino and stopping that bound guys like the scenario that I was like so then Yoshino being totally shocked and then like I'm looking like the 20 Ishida versus like that round number five happening like scenario that I was doing where like I'm looking like Ishida's powers will be like seriously like super effective each time like Ishida would be like attacking that round number like I was like if it was struggling like the scenario that I'm doing at that point I was like uh it would be obvious for like Ishida to let Yoshino that basically left why didn't want that Ishida so badly. Why didn't want Ishida so badly? Because like Quincy's will be like naturally will be having like will be exceptionally superiorly strong up against like the criminal. So like by taking by stealing like the soul of like Ishida while Ishida like the power that like Jin would be gaining would be like so much extreme would be along the line that Jin would be getting. So like this that can also like seeing that obvious for like as well as like Ishida at that point as for like while they would be witnessing how easily Ishida's like 20 powers will be like affecting that other bound number like the scenario that happened. That way like Ishida not much great difficulty at all like Ishida using skill because like Tokyo or foreign and defeating that bound guy is like the scenario that I'm doing. And then maybe like you should have like one of like his attacks resulting in like being like seriously affecting that guy that like him ending up dying, even though it should have might be not intending at all as like taking his life like I'm like in though should have been trying to keep him alive like I'm trying to like exceptional 20 powers of like should have like I'm like so seeing this was sort of effective against like the bound powers like I'm looking that maybe that being like in the scenario and that way like him taking up time like one possible scenario that I'm like or like him being like so badly extremely injured and it's not totally telling him to like leave before like should have would be making that threat that like to leave before like should have stay. It's like when like should have would be telling him to like to tell his boss Jin as well to like stay away and keep away from Ishida. Like basically now that at that point like Ishida would be getting that reflection because like I'm looking like Ishida would be like feeling that absolute confidence to make that absolute threat and will be for them to like leave the city and to not return back to the city and like not even come back for like is that like that such a threat of like a warning like at that point like a totally different that would be like just like a heated space would be like making sure that badly defeated and injured like found guy like was not with them by him totally running off and escaping. That's how the possible scenario that I'm using. And him going up to that gym and basically him like making gym and Jim at that point having that shocking realization through him that basically that he could have what Jin might have feared like the most like that it has happened that basically that Jin is too late and basically now that like Ishida has like basically regained back to like to be power. Like that way like Jin shockingly having such a realization at that point that we can have that get like I'm putting like Jin not at all willing at all to like give up on his like ambition and like Jin totally at that point like maybe laughing a villain laugh and maybe Jin totally at that point maybe think along the lines of like so like even though Jin would be feeling that absolute fear and for some reason within him like Jin also thinking along the lines of like so right now so like that we should are getting back like in people like if right now Jin is able to like feel that love soul by instead of the like Jin will be getting that much more of like an increase in his like power due to like Ishida right now having access to this lesson people who be along the lines of like an inner confidence and like Jin will be singing and basically that way like Jin totally graduating and for his like ultimate attack on like Ishida to basically to beat Ishida like so like the eventual scenario that I'm looking at right now some of the something that that they once like Ishida would be getting back to like to check out definitely I'm looking like at that point definitely I'm looking like Rukia I'm looking definitely would be able to spend that Ishida's like present physical presence on that exact direction where like Ishida is and all that like due to like Ishida getting back to like in the power at that point some of like instantly like Rukia would be like shocked. So Rukia would be like I don't think it's going to at like a totally different location that would be like totally shocked at the moment at that because like at that moment it felt like I was going to hear the sense like shit up weapons and pick it up like 20 pounds and yeah would be instantly like only at that point the Kevin would also realizing that like it should have finally gained back like 20 pounds as well. So like I'm thinking but yeah probably being happy for like it and like if straight away telling you going to about it and I'm looking so by the time like that would be those 20 pounds would be like probably defeating that other bound guy and that way saving Yoshino and by the time that fight would be over, 12 rounds, like it's going through that, okay, making it to where Ishida and Yoshino will be. And I'm looking for that definitely from that point on, I'm looking for that definitely. Ishida won't be able to like so only do things on his own. Like definitely, I'm looking for like at that point, like it's when only sporting Ishida and basically that way, like them only deciding to like fight as a team together against Jin and like army to bring them back. Like in the scenario, sitting on the brain.